welcome back members, friends, and fans to Season 2 of the Yamaha Zuma BWS and Cygnus motor how-to guide. This segment is going to be on removing the starter clutch, which is on the other side, and the AC Magneto. In order to do this, you're going to need a couple of tools. Most commonly, you're going to need the 8mm socket, a large Phillips head screwdriver, and a specialty tool known as the flywheel puller. Okay, these can be purchased at a few places online for around 30 bucks. Okay, and also a little bit of WD-40 will come in handy, as you'll see. Okay, referring to the Yamaha Zuma BWS service manual on page 5-53, you'll see the starter clutch and AC Magneto disassembly guide. If you don't have the service manual, you can download it from my webpage, or you can also find it on Zuma forums. Okay, we have completed steps 1 and 2, and we're going to begin with order number 3, which is going to be on your scoot. You're going to have to disconnect this. In this case, it's already been disconnected. This is directly to the pickup. Okay, so you're going to want to definitely just remove that cable. The next step is going to be removing the fan, which is part number 4. Using the 8mm socket, alright, easy enough. Alright, now, yes, I just twisted it off with my brute strength. Now, here's where you're going to need to use the stator puller. I highly recommend that you take a moment to clean these threads out before you go right ahead and pull in the stator, because otherwise it's going to seize, or you can run the risk of stripping the threads. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that out, and then we'll be right back. Alright, what I've done is I've found out how to get a toothbrush. You want to clean out these threads here very well, and then for the puller, just grab some engine oil, which I'm sure there's plenty rolling around left inside the case here, and you want to lubricate these threads really good, because as you can see here, and I wish it would focus for me here, okay, that they're pretty fine. Alright, now if you don't lube it and there's a bunch of grit in there's a chance that you can cross thread. So definitely you want to lube this up before you use this tool. Okay, grease, oil, whatever is fine. Okay, and again, clean out these threads well. Now, one thing to notice is that this flywheel here is counter threaded. Okay, so turning it to your right will get you nowhere. You want to turn it to your left and do it very carefully so that you don't cross thread it, and then eventually you'll find a spot where it grabs. Okay, you also want to make sure you have the plunger backed all the way out so that you're not trying to thread it in and pull it out at the same time. Okay, and you want to go as tight as you can by hand, and then use a large wrench to tighten it up. And you want to go all the way until it stops. Okay. This way you know you got the maximum amount of threads on there, so you're not going to strip the end of your puller, because you're going to be putting a lot of force on it. Okay, that seems to be about as tight as I can get it. Okay. Okay, next thing you're going to want to start doing is to start tightening it down. So again, using your large wrench, and then what I have here is a 17mm crescent. Start bringing it all the way around. Okay, slowly, a little bit at a time, start applying pressure. And there we go. Okay, takes a little bit of force. Okay, I think we got it. Very carefully. And it's magnetized, so it feels like it doesn't want to come off, but it's just because of the magnetic stator right there. That's what generates power. Alright, so there you go. Okay. Now onto removing the stator. This is what supplies electrical current to your scoot to run things like the lights and the ignition. Okay. Now these here, you want to be real careful with. Just put a little bit of this stuff on there because they're, last time I worked on them, I know that they were really in there tight. We're just talking about a little bit amount here. Okay. And again, all these Yamaha fasteners are really soft. So take your time and definitely use the right size screwdriver, otherwise you'll strip it and then you got all kinds of problems. Like I'm about to here. We're going to take a tactical pause. Okay, I've reset. Just bring you up to speed. What happened off camera was that this one here started to strip, and then this one here was giving me a real hard time. Again, these Yamaha screws, you know, i.e. fasteners, are really, really soft. So I had to reach behind here and spray it with WD-40, and then also I had to do the old, of course I'm using the screwdriver for this size head, take me a hammer and pound it in because it had gotten you know, stripped to the point where I couldn't turn it anymore. But before it went too far gone, I took the motor down on the floor, laid it down on its side so that I could provide maximum downward pressure. And then again, because of the move, I don't have all my tools here, so I had to go caveman style, use a pair of grips here, you know, provide leverage. And then as it was, you know, down on the ground, I turned it like this, and that got it to pop. Okay, so be real careful, because if you completely strip these, there's not a whole lot of room to get in there and turn it. Okay, so you might end up having to drill it out or what have you. Okay, so just beware of that. These are really dry, and they will strip on you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove them now that I got them all freed up. And before we pull that off, we're going to pull this one off too. This is the pickup. And again, this one is on there too, tight. Okay, we're back. Even these larger ones on here are really tight. So I soaked them, and like I mentioned before, just had to lay it down on the side real quick and give it direct pressure, and it came undone. Also found that the other problem with it was that I was out of beer, so I went ahead and grabbed one of these. Highly recommend, 9.5%. Really hard to come by, you might have to buy them online. Problem solved. Alright, onward Christian soldier. So let's remove the pickup. And I will do so ever so carefully. I thought I had the end of that one. There you go. These are pretty long for what they're holding in. And there we go. There's a rubber grommet on the back of that. Just push it through, pull it through, what have you. And this whole entire assembly will come apart. Voila. Into my parts bucket. Okay, and then what we have here is the oil pump, which will be covered in another segment. Okay. Now, on here is the Woodruff key. This is what helps you keep the timing for the motor. It's very important that you don't lose this because it's not really held into anything. What I'm going to do is while we're on this side here, okay, reset the camera here. One thing I have to show you here is what's called the Woodruff key. This is what keeps the timing of the motor. All right, this is to make sure that you put the it doesn't want to work. There it goes. Okay, this is to make sure that you put the AC Magneto back in its proper orientation. Okay, as you know here, this and it's really important that you don't lose this. But if you do, you'll be surprised that you can find this crescent shape Woodruff key at probably like Lowe's or any hardware store in the specialty parts bins. Okay, you'll notice on the back of the Magneto, right, is this notch here. That is to ensure that when you reinsert this, that the orientation of the crank and this indicator here match up with the indicator that is machined or molded into the case here. Okay, as I discussed on my previous video with disassembling the head, okay, removing the head, there's an indicator on that end, and here's the other side where this must match up. So this is to ensure that it only goes on one way, and that would be somewhere around here where we're at. There we go, just like so. Oh, where's it at? There it goes. Okay, pull the plunger back out a little bit, and then this way it'll sit. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that it's always in the proper orientation, okay, for the guide. That's the reason why they put the Woodruff key in there. It's just essentially to keep the timing. But if you lose that piece, it'll allow you to put it in any position, and then you will have all kinds of problems. All right, so just pay attention to that. All right, what I've done is spun the motor around to show you the starter clutch. Here's the starter clutch. As far as disassembly, there is not a whole lot to do here. All right, simply you want to pull this out. Now this is a spring-loaded part, and for the guys that, I don't even know what I put that on there for. Okay, this is a spring-loaded part, which you want to be real careful with. There is no need to disassemble this thing at all. All right, if it's something wrong with it, then it's just best to replace the whole thing as a unit. All right, it's got these spring-loaded rollers that if you happen to drop this like I did, they will all shoot out all over you, and it's a very fine spring, so they're hard to find. But fortunately, I was able to recover all of them. So, okay, so removing that is the last part, because what it does is allow you to pull the crank all the way through. You probably could, but again, you don't want to drop this thing. So this completes this segment of the video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned. Please subscribe. Cheers.